I've got a script here to read. I've written this out because I want it to be right. And so I may look down in my notes as I'm talking to you. Uh, this is something that is really hard to do. I don't want to do this video, but I feel that doing this video is really important because I know that if the right people see it, that it will help them deal with their issues that they're going through. What I'm going to tell you about is how I've managed to get to the point where I'm comfortable being myself. But what I don't want to tell you about is what I spent most of my life trying to be. And so the story pivots in early 2016 when I was sitting in a bathroom in an apartment with a friend of mine. And she was sitting on my lap and she was doing my makeup. And as she was doing my makeup, I had this thought roll through my mind. I'm like, "Oh my god, I can't do this anymore. This is crazy." You see, about a year and a half before that, I decided to transition because I lived a life full of anxiety from 5 years old until late into my 40s. So I went at that time, I had gotten another divorce, and I went to a clinic that would give hormones out, and I went on estradiol and spironolactone. Now, when I walked in the clinic, they just gave me the hormones. They didn't spend a whole lot of time talking to me. I think my appointment lasted 15 minutes. There was no psychological counseling, there was no physical um, examination, and it was basically a physician assistant that was capable of writing script, and she wrote the script, and I walked out with it. I was like, "This is wild." And when I went on the hormones and I came out, I felt comfortable because I had no more anxiety over an issue that I was hiding for so long. I told my Christian friends, most of my friends were Christian friends and conservative friends as well. Now that presented another problem because I'm conservative in my viewpoints, but I also know that gender issues are real because I dealt with them from 5 years old on, and they just don't appear out of nowhere for most, or I shouldn't say for most people, for a certain percentage of the people. Now, today is different because there is the embracing of transition amongst people that are struggling with issues, and they can be in their 20s and all of a sudden have an epiphany and say, "Oh well, I'm dealing with gender issues," and all of a sudden they go and they transition. But I don't buy into that. I don't buy into that. um Teenage girls and are coming out and having their gender changed, and it just came out of no place. I do believe that there are people that are very young that start with true gender issues. But even with true gender issues, I don't think that you're born with it. I think that it's it's influences in society that is not necessarily pushed on you, but there's just triggers that happen. And I don't think people see it. See, when I was growing up, my family was very conservative. There was nobody in my family that was overtly feminine, or there was nothing to lead me down that path. So there were just things that happened. I was very insecure and I had low self esteem. Um, and my confidence wasn't strong, and I stayed to myself, and I found comfort into feminine things. I was very attracted to feminine things, and I just went there, and nobody knew that I felt that way. I didn't tell anybody. I kept it to myself. But every night I would go to bed as a young child, wish I would wake up as a girl to stop this madness. It was difficult to be in school, to sit and watch the girls, and I was jealous of that because they got the attention and I was desperate for that attention. But again, there was nobody around that encouraged the gender issues for me. So there are people that deal with this. Now, what happened is that when I had that moment in the bathroom with her, that was the last night that I dressed on a regular basis. I think I dressed twice after that because I just didn't understand how it could just go away. And I dressed to see what would happen. And I immediately got undressed because I had no will for it anymore. But the anxiety did return. And the anxiety that I had focused in on the possibility that when's the gender issues going to come back? When is this haunt going to get me? But it never came back. Now, do I think about my life in as in before? Yeah, I do. But it's like again, it's like it's just so amazing that this transformation away from the need for gender or for the to be transgender was for the need for that to go away, for it to stop. So that's what I think about, and it's just like it's just crazy to me that this happened. So I spent probably 6 months with the anxiety really intense of fear of it coming back because I didn't want it to come back. I'm like, this is great. I can just be me and I can just let it go. So in October of 2016, another friend that I had met, she had called me on a Sunday morning and she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Nothing." And she asked me if I wanted to go do something. I said, "Sure." And she said, "I'll be there in 5 minutes." So I got in the car with her and she drove to my church that I attend today. We walked in and I sat through a service and I picked up a NLT Bible. Actually, she handed it to me and I went home and I started reading. I thought, well, you know what? I've searched everything else for answers as to what happened. The only thing I haven't done is read the Bible. So I started reading the Bible and I read from the very first page to the very last page in 7 weeks. I read cover to cover, Genesis to Revelations, looking for answers to my gender issues that had happened, why that had happened. And I didn't find it through the reading, but I knew I was onto something. And I found a lot of hope in the church that I attended. I joined the church and I admitted that I had these gender issues. So in January 2017, that church decided to launch a recovery program and asked if I wanted to be a part of it, if I would be a part of it. So I started in January 2017. We started going through the recovery program, which to me it didn't really fit because I didn't see the gender issues as an addiction, but we were doing a program that worked with hurts, habits, and hangups. And so I thought, well, that fit. And through the entire 6 months, first 6 months, the meeting focused pretty much on me. Yeah, I cried all the time. I was just like, this is crazy. But as I worked through it, I ended up working through a 12-step program and I learned to I did a discipleship program and I started serving in the church and my life started changing. So as I progressed, I began to find myself. I found that I could be comfortable being myself. And it took a long time, but it finally led up to last summer. I was challenged to read the Gospels, and I read a Gospel a day for 32 days. So 8 times through, there's four Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And doing so taught me or it freed me to really be myself. and I'm so feel I'm trying to think of the right word. I have serenity, I have peace, and I have joy in my life. And 2023 was not an easy year for me. I lost both my parents. I lost my best friend. I took care of my dad uh, from January through September. I moved back to my hometown and lived with my dad, taking care of him along with my sister. And that was a major challenge, but it changed my life. And so now I work with other people who are struggling. And we have our program, Life Transformation Program. And the great thing about it is that I'm finding that with everybody coming in and sharing their story on their struggles, I find that the gender issues and people with porn issues and people with alcohol, with drugs, people who are dealing with codependencies, whereby they really need the relationships um, to have their identity. I find that we all have similar analogies as to what's keeping us from being ourselves. And I have this newfound strength that I've never had before. I have this new comfort with who I am. It's why I'm able to do this video and talk to you, to share my story with you. And so I plan on making this channel be a part of that journey. And I want to share my struggles with you. I want to share the resolutions with you that I have. And I may have some other people on that will share their stories with you. And so I hope that this will help you. And this is something I can do to pay back for all the grace that I've received and to help people find themselves. Now, I realize that it's up to you and that you have choices. And that's another thing. I, I spent most of my life thinking that I didn't have a choice, that I was just the way that I was. But the truth is you do have a choice. And I made what most people would think would be hard choices, but actually I was making the easy choices and I was caving in. The hard choice is to really work through it and go against against the forces that are driving our minds to do things that are damaging to us. And so I hope this helps you and I hope you'll subscribe. And I just feel really blessed that you're watching the video and I hope you have a blessed life. Thank you.